Hola clase, vamos a empezar con los apuntes hoy y vamos a hablar de los objetos en la clase y las frases en la clase. Today is a lot of vocab, a lot of things that we're going to take notes on today, and we're going to practice saying the words that you need to practice saying today. But a lot of this is so that you can navigate what you need in the classroom. Since some of you are remote, then some of these things you might hear in the videos, and if you're in class with me, it's some of the things I might say in the classroom if you're there with me. All right, I don't want you to spend a ton of time memorizing the phrases, right? But we need to be familiar, especially with the classroom vocab, and be familiar with the phrases so that we can use more Spanish in the classroom and that we can use more Spanish for asking for help. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're going to start with objetos en la clase. Okay, so we're going to talk about objects and take notes on those objects in the class, and then we're going to practice saying them. Okay, so el bolígrafo is pen. La carpeta, all right, it sounds like carpet, but it's not. La carpeta is a folder. Cuaderno is your notebook. Estudiante, el estudiante, la estudiante. Both of them are student. But el estudiante, we're going to talk about nouns today. That means it's a boy. El estudiante, so a student that's male. Boy student. And this is a student that's female. La estudiante. And we'll talk about why that is later today. Okay. La hoja de papel, all right, is a piece of paper. El lápiz is a pencil. El libro, book. El profesor, la profesora. So kind of like what's up here, the L means the masculine, the male, and the la means the feminine, the female. So el profesor is a teacher that is male. La profesora, teacher, female. El pupitre. This is a desk. El pupitre is a desk, but it's like a student desk. Like if you're in my classroom, it's like the ones with the chair and the table connected. All right, we'll talk about the other word for desk later on when we talk about school. But el pupitre is like if you were in my classroom, that's what you would be sitting in. Okay? La sala de clases is the classroom. It's literally saying the room of classes. All right? La bandera is the flag. La pizarra is like the board, the whiteboard. Okay, if we use those small marker boards in class, they're called las pizarritas. It's like little whiteboards. When we add that ita onto it, it's like a little whiteboard. Las pizarras, las pizarritas. El marcador is a marker. Okay. In some assignments, you might see el marcador for the highlighter. We use that word as well. Borrador is eraser. Sacapuntas is the pencil sharpener. La papelera is the trash can. Okay. Then we have two phrases here that are going to help us to express what we need in the class and what we have in the class. So necesito means I need. So we could say, oh, Senora Sheets, yo necesito el lápiz. I need the pencil. Oh, Señora Sheets, necesito la hoja de papel. I need a piece of paper, right? Then we have yo tengo, or we could have no tengo, right? So yo tengo is I have, and then if we add the no, it would be I don't have. So we can say, sí, yo tengo yo tengo el marcador. I have the marker. Or, sí, yo tengo el libro. I have the book. Yo no tengo el libro. I don't have the book. Yo no tengo el bolígrafo. I don't have the pen. All right, so we can use those to express what we have and what we don't have, and maybe what we need. All right, so we're trying to get you to use a little bit more Spanish in the classroom. All right, and be familiar with some instructions that I give you for those objects as well. All right, let's look at our next part. Right, and let's pause with the vocab. Actually, we forgot. Let's go back up here and let's pronounce these things, okay? Because some of them are kind of funny words, okay? All right, so you're gonna say them right after me, all right? So I'll say them and you try them out. Even if you're at home and you feel silly, let's try these words out so that we can express what we need in Spanish, okay? Here we go. El bolígrafo. Muy bien. La carpeta. El cuaderno. El estudiante. La estudiante. La hoja de papel. El lápiz. El libro. El profesor. La profesora. El pupitre. La sala de clases. La bandera. La pizarra. El marcador. El borrador. El sacapuntas. La papelera. Necesito. Yo tengo. Or yo no tengo. Muy bien. Okay, let's talk about nouns. Let's take a break from some of that vocab. Let's talk about nouns. All right, a lot of that vocab up there, besides our last two phrases, were nouns. And hopefully you know what a noun is from English class. All right, what is a noun? You're right, it's a person, place, or thing. Or sometimes we say idea as well. Person, place, thing, or idea. And in Spanish, nouns, all nouns have gender. All right, this marker has a gender, this desk has a gender, my phone has a gender. All right, and that's a little weird for us because in English we don't have that. But in Spanish and in other languages, there is gender assigned to each noun. All right, and that is really, really important, is to know the gender of that noun. All right, so in Spanish, nouns have gender. I want you to underline that part or highlight it on your notes. All right, they are either masculine or feminine. All right, nouns are either masculine or feminine. All nouns have gender. Verbs don't have gender. We'll talk about verbs later, but all nouns have gender, whether they're a person, a thing, a place, they all have a gender. Most nouns that end in O are masculine. And we're going to underline most, because there are always exceptions. Most nouns that end in A are feminine, right? So that's somewhat a little bit easier to figure out, but then there are always a couple of exceptions that we have to remember and kind of memorize along the way. But we'll kind of get to those as we go along. We'll show you a couple. All right. So el libro. All right. O. So it's masculine. La carpeta. A. So it's feminine. La hoja de papel, and you're like, oh, well that ends in an L. But actually the noun is right here, the piece or the leaf of paper. So here we are right here, and that's feminine, hoja. Okay, it ends in A. All right? We have definite articles. Our definite articles are L and la. All right? And we use L for masculine and la for feminine. And both of those definite articles mean the. So it's the sheet of paper, the marker. Those are the definite articles because we're talking about, oh, I need the marker. I'm talking about a specific marker. I need the book. So it's definite. We're going to talk about the other stuff later, indefinite. But this means the, L and la. L for masculine, la for feminine. Right? Spanish nouns that end in an E or consonant have to be learned as masculine or feminine. So let's put a star by this or maybe highlight that whole part because that's important. When you get a vocab list in the future, you need to make sure that you pay attention to the L and the la, especially if that word ends in an E or a consonant, so not a vowel. All right, if it ends in an E or a consonant, then we need to pay special attention. We should really practice all of our words with the L's and the la's. It'll help us, it'll save us a lot of heartache in the future. All right, so el profesor, it ends in a consonant, and we just have to remember that it's A, masculine. Lápiz, we have to remember masculine. I remember this one because I took Spanish back in the 9th grade, and I remember no la las, no la lápiz. All right, all right. La noche, it's an E. All right, and we have to memorize that this is feminine. All right, so we just need to be aware that nouns have gender, that the L for the masculine, la for the feminine, and we need to work on memorizing our vocab and thinking through our vocab with those L's and the la's. A lot of times students are like, Miss Hughes, is that really important? It kind of is, all right? It's going to save you a lot of heartache later when we start adding adjectives to those things, all right? So let's move on and talk about punctuation and accents, all right? You probably have noticed that a lot of our words have punctuation and accents, or a lot of our words have accents and the Spanish has some funky punctuation, right? Those things are super important to the language, and it changes not only how you say the word, but sometimes it changes the entire meaning of the word, right? So accents matter. Accents really matter, all right? So we need to remember that. Let's talk about the punctuation first. Is that for questions, we put an upside down question mark first, and then a right side question mark next at the end of the question, okay? So we have our question in the middle, bing, 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 okay? And we have upside down question mark, right side up question mark. Exclamation points are the same when we're using an exclamation, all right? It is that upside down and then right side up at the end. And you may think that's a little weird. Actually, I think it's the best way to know how to read and pronounce. Because have you ever been reading in English and maybe you're reading out loud in the class and you finally get to the end of the sentence and you realize, oh, it was a question. It wasn't a phrase, it was a question. You almost feel like you have to go back to the beginning to read that like a question. In Spanish, we let you know right ahead of time, oh, you should ask this like a question. Your voice should go up at the end. ¿Qué tal? Instead of ¿qué tal? All right? And then exclamation points the same way. All right? So upside down, right side up at the end. Accents. Our accents are over our vowels with that A, E, I, O, and U. Your accents are over your vowels, all right, with those little slashes. All right, and then we have the tilde, is that squiggly line. And that goes over the N because it makes that N-Y sound, so it's like that vowel from the our alphabet, I mean our letter from the alphabet. All right, so I want you to take a minute, pause your video, and I want you to add punctuation and accents to these phrases right here. So go ahead and pause your video, take a minute, add punctuation and accents to those phrases, then play, and we'll go ahead and go over our answers. Okay, let's see where you put punctuation and accents. ¿Cómo estás? We've learned this. This is a question, so we need our question marks. Hopefully you might have looked back on your notes and you realize, oh, our question words have accents, como, and estás has an accent. Okay, ¿qué tal? This is also a question. And it has a question word in it, so it's an accent over that E. Hasta luego is an exclamation point, exclamation, so we need to put our exclamation points. And finally, y tú and you, it's flipping that question back around, so it is a question. We put our question marks, and our U has an accent. Okay, great. Over Google Meets this week, we're going to talk about how to add these punctuations and accents into our Google Docs and all of our assignments. Because punctuation matters so much, I'm going to require that you have those things. So make sure that you tune in for that recording. I might post another video of how to do that. Make sure that you know how to do that so you can add those accents, because I will take off points for that, right? Because it is such a part of the language. We learned that word for telephone, all right? And it changes how we say things. If we don't have an accent, it would be telefono. But because we have an accent, telefono, all right? It changes how we view that word and how we say that word. All right, let's finish out with talking about our classroom phrases, all right? These are things that we're gonna use in the classroom, or you might hear me say online, or if we're in a Google Meets, you might be able to say and speak some Spanish to me. It'll help us to get some tasks done, all right? This section right here, I want you to write profesora. Okay, or maybe you go up here and you make a comment here and you put it right here. Like you click up here and put your comment and say profesora. Okay, these are things that you will hear me say. All right, abran sus libros. Open your books. Okay, what you might more hear me say this time is abran sus computadoras, because we're not using books this year as much. So abran sus computadoras, like open up that Chromebook. Escriban, write. Escuchen, listen. Guarden los libros, or guarden las computadoras, or guarden los cuadernos is guard or put away. Saquen los cuadernos is take out. Saquen, take out your notebooks. So next time you're in class with me, which hopefully will be soon, you say, if I say saquen las computadoras, let's take out our computers, or saquen, we can even pull out a file, saquen los apuntes, el paquete para el capítulo, take out the packet for this chapter. All right, so these are things that you don't need to spend a whole lot of time memorizing, but you just need to be familiar with these phrases because you're going to hear me say them. So you might have to go back to the sheet and reference every once in a while. It's like, what did she say? Oh, right. Okay, abren, open, escriban, write, escuchen, listen, guarden, put away, like guard it, okay, and saquen, take out, all right? Let's talk about some phrases for you, and these ones we're going to actually practice saying, okay, because you're going to need to know how to pronounce them. Right? So these are the things that you can say back to me to interact in Spanish. The more we use Spanish, the more it sets in, right? And we get accustomed to it. So tengo una pregunta. I have a question. Tengo una pregunta, señora. Okay? Or you can shorten it, una pregunta, a question. No sé. No entiendo. No sé is I don't know. No entiendo is I don't understand. Okay? No sé, no entiendo, right? Or you can even say without the no in front of it and say, oh, entiendo, entiendo. I understand. Entiendo, we're good. Okay? Repite, por favor. Repeat, please. Okay? If I'm talking too quickly because I get super excited when I speak Spanish, or you can't understand me behind my mask, okay, you could say repite, por favor, right? ¿Cómo se dice en español? How do you say something in Spanish? Okay. ¿Cómo se dice marker en español? ¿Cómo se dice book en español? ¿Cómo se dice piece of paper en español? All right, so if you're looking for a word, that's a great question to ask. All right, the last one, ¿qué quiere decir? Is what does that word mean? Okay, ¿qué quiere decir marcador? Oh, marker. ¿Qué quiere decir pupitre? Oh, desk. So if you have a question about a word that you're seeing in a reading, or maybe that you heard on a listening, oh, ¿qué quiere decir ventana? Oh, window, and I can answer you with that definition. All right, now let's practice saying these words. All right, so repeat after me. Tengo una pregunta. No sé. No entiendo. Repite, por favor. ¿Cómo se dice en español? ¿Qué quiere decir? Okay, that's our lesson for today. Lots of vocab and lots of phrases. Here's what I want you to do with that. Review that a little bit today. Take a couple of minutes to kind of look over things, kind of practice by pointing at objects or holding them up. A great way to practice is just go through your book bag, or maybe you've got a desk at home with your school supplies. Just kind of, oh, es el marcador. Oh, es el pupitre. Just kind of letting those words sink in as you look at the objects kind of helps your brain to make those connections. Practice with some of these words as we start to meet on Google Meets. And as you have questions, shoot me a text on Remind if you have a question, okay, about how to say something in Spanish. Let's start to use some of those phrases and just be familiar with this. But I do not want you to stress and try to memorize all of them, all right? For remote learning, be on the lookout for a Google Meet this week, and I'll definitely post a video about how to add accents into your Google Docs, and also how to add accents into like a Google form. That's a little trickier because Google hasn't gotten super wonderful at that yet. All right, but pay attention for that because that's super important. It's going to help you do all of your work to the best of your ability in the future. Okay, adios.